Good afternoon. Welcome to this afternoon's webinar. This is a prelude for BIM Show Live, which is on the Wednesday, the 28th of February and Thursday, the 1st of March. This afternoon, we have Rob Charlton, Martin MacDonald, and Pavel Napo with us. We're going to discuss a little bit about what you can expect from two of our seminar streams, data and next generation. You'll see up on the screen each of the people that are attending the panel sessions. Sadly, Russell can't join us this afternoon. He's been called away, but I'm sure we'll still do just as well with our other three expert BIM specialists. So what I'll do is I'm going to pass you over to Rob Charlton, who's going to give us a little bit of an overview about what is BIM Show Live, what we're going to talk about for the next 30-40 minutes. Please do send your questions in. We are monitoring those, and we do have a few questions that people have sent in prior to us starting. So I'll hand over to Rob.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, I'm speaking to you from Newcastle. It's about 26 degrees in Newcastle at the moment. Sun shining. It's like the south of France here. So obviously we want you all to head to the northeast of England in a couple of weeks' time. The plans are all going very well. It's fairly busy, not least because the day before the event we've got Inspiration Day. We're bringing a whole load of kids there. We've got 300 kids coming to the boiler shop, so it's all very exciting. Obviously, well, I don't know if everyone will remember the story behind BIM Show. We've been doing it for about 7 years, and hopefully we've played our part in sort of moving the industry forward and getting it very digital. And those of us that were there at the beginning 7 years ago at our first event, it's fantastic to look now of how far we've moved, and just from culture, attitude, hardware, software. It's just unbelievable when you look back to where we've come from. There's originally 120 of us in the Business Design Centre in Newcastle, in London, and now we're up to, we got up to 1,000 in Manchester, but far more sensible. We kind of brought it down to about 450, 500 people, and it's all about learning, sharing, and also having a bit of fun along the way. And there's a bit of, it's the night in between. There's a few drinks go on. But when we set the event up, it was always about the industry talking to each other and sharing its ideas. And we had 4 streams. Then in between, we have a bunch of keynote speakers that hopefully start the discussion and inspire a bit. So the 4 streams are next generation data, which we're talking about today, stories and strategy. Just to give you a bit of background on each of those. The idea of stories was a load of people doing really cool stuff and just making sure we shared it. And people are always very keen to tell you some of the great stuff they're doing, also some of the stuff that hasn't gone so well, and basically tell us all how clever they are. So that was what stories was about. And then strategy is what often people refer to as the fluffy stuff, but absolutely essential to set the framework up in the first instance, and some large clients in particular. I spend a lot of time and energy on that, about how digital can fit into their strategies. And then we've got data and kind of the whole, everything we're doing now, and what our world's all being changed in construction, because we're now talking about data rather than paper. It's kind of a bit of a cliche, but from an old timer like me who started on the drawing board, I've seen a massive change, and the potential of using data gives us so many opportunities, and entrepreneurial opportunities that go with that. And then next generation, it's all about what's coming next, which is, I guess from BIM Show Live's point of view, the people that have attended BIM Show Live have always been the early adopters. And in some respects, that's the really exciting bit. When we got huge as an event, a couple of 1,000 people, it became more of an educational thing, and that's not what BIM Show is about. It's very much about looking to the future and challenge. So, yeah, I think next gen's a very important part of it. So that's a brief introduction. I'm just hoping we get lots of people signed up, and we're as busy as we can be, and we've got a packed venue. So. Yeah, looking forward to today's discussion.
And we are now in our 7th year of BIM Show Live. So Rob and his team are well versed in how the show should progress. But what we try and do each year is bring the new, bring the exciting, bring the future to BIM Show Live, as well as analysing and reflecting on what's gone on in the past year. It's also about what's coming next. So this afternoon, we're just going to have a quick delve into what these 3 BIM specialists actually think is the key things that we should be looking out for, and not just what's necessarily way ahead in the future, what we can realise now and actually make the future today. Martin, I'm just going to start with you. Just give us a little bit, a quick elevator pitch on what it is that Sublime does, and then I'll kick off a few questions with you.
Okay, thanks guys. Hello everyone. Yeah, Sublime is a new business that we started just about 9 months ago, and we spun that business out from Solus, which has been around for a long time, around for about 18 years. And Solus for a long time has provided, I guess, stakeholder engagement visually, so those images and movies and sort of interactive presentations that enable property professionals, architects, designers, construction professionals to communicate better with their audiences, whether that's an internal stakeholder audience, planners and regulators, or often in the kind of sales and pitch side, to be able to communicate about the future of a property infrastructure, master plan project. From within that business, we started to generate our own technology, particularly around virtual and augmented reality, VR and AR. And it became clear to me that there was an opportunity and a space for a specialist company to focus on creating the future tools that the construction design industry would need in VR and AR. So it's been a really exciting 9 months since we started. We are running probably slightly faster than we're ready for. Some amazing projects already delivered. And the idea really of Sublime is to work closely with clients to develop those future tools. Quickly, they are in 2 key spaces. Shared immersion, we call it, which is the idea of being able to do VR, but with no headset. So you walk inside a portal, a dome space that projects VR around you. And that enables collaboration and a way of experiencing VR that means you don't need to wear the headset. And the second area, which I guess is longer term, but I guess even more exciting, is AR, augmented reality, and how that will apply to the world of construction and design. We're lucky enough to win some Innovate UK funding. We have £1 million worth of Innovate UK funding to build out our vision for AR and construction. We've called that the Augmented Worker. And that will be built out over the next 3 years in partnership with industry. So we have key industry partners, including Autodesk and Microsoft, AECOM, Langer, and a bunch of others now coming on stream, where we will test out the future of AR using current devices like HoloLens. And then as new devices become available, which I think we will even begin to see this year, new AR glasses that we can wear, then we believe our tool set and our approach will apply to those new devices as they become available. So I guess that's Sublime, is an AR, VR tech company focused currently on the kind of property and construction market.
Great, thank you, Martin. I'm going to come back to you with a question that I have, but I just want to let Pavel dive in here for a minute from 3D perspective. Pavel, can you tell us how your products actually fit in with what you think is going to be the next generation of BIM?
Yeah, 3D Pro is a digital construction platform, and as that suggests, we are the new wave of in BIM, if you like. 3D Pro is a platform, based in cloud, where you can store your project data from the beginning, from the design stages through construction, and also during the use of your building. And on this on top of this, we're building applications for collaboration, analytics, and BIM forensics, and VR. And yeah, we strongly believe that the next logical step where BIM will go is closer integration with cloud. Where we will see more symbiosis between the desktop applications and cloud databases.
Okay, and what kind of projects are you working on currently, and what are we actually going to see that cloud-based platform be like?
Currently, we're working with Canary Wharf, for example, on a new development in Woodwharf. We started with them actually a couple of years ago when we won their innovation prize, and we've been developing and using our platform on their project for mostly for design coordination. Then also we worked with Vulnerability, for example. We developed virtual reality for health and safety for them, and also recently we're working with Bright & Wood engineers and consultants on 4D solutions for VR and also more data-driven projects. So yeah, our clients vary. So we work with large made contractors, but also with consultants. So with anyone who is interested to innovate in construction.
Thank you. You mentioned VR, and obviously that's an area that Martin really specialises in. So tell me, Martin, what do you think is going to be the next big thing VR-wise?
I think VR has been really interesting in the construction design space. That I think we've been quite early adopters in our industry, where really the games industry globally is driving the investment into the hardware and the software. And in fact, what's really happened is that we've adopted games technology into our industry. There's two engines, Unity and Unreal, which are games engines. Unity provides an awful lot of the engine behind a lot of the mobile games in your iPhone, and Unreal has been creating high-end sort of console-based games for 20 years, and both of those engines are effectively free, and there's a massive community of developers and creators out there on the web. There's loads of YouTube videos, so you can pick up and get involved pretty easily. And I think that, I guess, shift in software platform and methodology is the thing that is well underway now, where I would say most larger design practices have some element of skill set internally on a games engine, and some have done a lot more. Like so Gensler, I know, have been in this space for quite a long time, and they've got quite a significant team, as do Foster's and others, who can get the very best out of games engines to give a real-time experience, which very quickly becomes a VR experience. I think the limiting factor currently for VR is actually the headset itself. I think VR headsets are quite cumbersome, are a little bit strange to wear in public, and I think that's the challenge we all have, is to get past that. Our own solution in terms of the portal is where you can stand and engage in VR but with no headset. I think that's one solution, and a good solution. I think the next stage, although it's a number of years away, is where we bring our own device in the same way that we carry our mobile phones. I think when that happens, I mean, maybe Apple will lead that in a few years' time. Later this year, we'll see Magic Leap launch a new headset. When those headsets become our own devices that we carry by default, then I think dipping in and out of VR, or maybe more broadly, kind of any form of digital reality, MR, AR, whatever R's you choose to discuss, but that will come from our own device. And when that happens, when that hardware piece happens, then it will become ubiquitous. That is a number of years, it could be 5 years or more away, but when that happens, I say it becomes ubiquitous. I think everything else is in place. I think the software and our understanding of how to create those environments is there now. It's just a question of the hardware maturing.
That's a really interesting take on it. Rob, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that?
I'm just thinking, you imagine 10 years down the line, there's going to be photographs of people with huge headsets on, and everyone's going to be laughing at us saying, what on earth is that about? It's probably going to be some bloody contact lens or something that's going to be in there that is awesome, but you just imagine everyone's going to laugh at us. I mean, just interested in my thoughts on kind of the future and stuff like that. I think VR and AR, as you say, Martin, there's stacks of opportunity there. I think there's technology there to pinch from other sectors where billions are being spent. I think we've really got motoring on that. I'm going to see some great stuff. I think what we're seeing new in our sector is having data. I don't think we've ever had it before. We've been very much focused on paper, and I think people are starting to realise what they can do with this information as it's built up, and the pennies starting to drop the value of it. So the obvious one that everyone's will mention is artificial intelligence. We don't quite know what that's going to be used for, but I think that's, look at the future, that's going to be a big, it's kind of you ask any industry what's the future, it's very easy just to say artificial intelligence. So I think you've got to say that. And I think everyone will see VR and AR, the technology's there now. I think the hard part, the interesting bit, like what you guys are doing, Martin, is what you do with that technology. The other thing that we find a lot of is that it has to be the future, because we've got so many clients now that are desperate for an asset management platform that's easy to use, and a lot of them are starting to see the value that could potentially bring, which for me, who's an old timer, I've been around a lot of years, and sort of what facilities management used to be and how people are seeing it in sustainability. I think it's a great step forward. But interestingly, all of this, and it's probably something I'm going to challenge people about when we go to the BIM Show Live, is all this tech's fantastic, it's great, there's no bigger advocate than me, but I think this, over the last 6-12 months, we've had two of the biggest things that have ever happened in our industry. So Grenfell is a sort of national disgrace. Those people died. And then also we've got the whole Carillion collapse. So those two things, those of us that are in the industry, effectively are not surprised by. We've kind of, all of those things we've known about and we've kind of accepted, and it's, you know, the specification changes and reducing cost and complexity of contracts. That's the Grenfell thing. The whole, you know, with Carillion, kind of late payments, driving down the supply chain. These are all things. What it's done is it's brought these issues to the fore. And actually now, you know, whereas all of us in the industry have known about it for years, now all of a sudden it's on BBC News and people are talking about it. Houses of Parliament are talking about it. And basically how crap construction is. Well, we've all known that for years. So I think the future has to be all of this great technology that we've got, how to solve those problems, those fundamental problems. How do we use technology to ensure that buildings are constructed how they are supposed to be? So, for example, is the fire barrier where it should be? I think that's we've got a huge workmanship issues. How can we use technology to fix that? It might be VR, it might be AR. How do we make sure that what's specified is actually installed? So, you know, that's data in objects and things like that. Plug for BIM Store. That you then got cultural issues. You know, can technology help with that? So all of those things. So I think, you know, where I'm keen to challenge about BIM Show Live. Never a fan for technology's sake. We've got to understand what those outcomes are, and I think we've got a whole load of challenges in our sector since last BIM Show Live that now we've got to fix, and technology will be one of the answers. I think there's contractual issues we've got to sort out, and I think we've got huge cultural issues. I think what is great, is always encouraging to me, is the cultural issues. I don't see it. You know, a lot of the digital BIM type events which have been, I don't see those cultural issues there. I see collaboration, genuine collaboration. I see people that want to do things better. I think that movement's just got to grow. And you know, if we go back to 2011, there was 100 people that were kind of at that BIM show, and it's just grown and grown and grown. So yeah, I'm fairly, you know, we've got to be optimistic, and with some of these disasters that have happened, we've got to try and, you know, make some good come out of it. And hopefully technology can do that.
Pavel, would you like to come in there and respond to what Rob
says? Few things I would like to pick up on. So one thing, for example, with the AI, it's just one of the components. It's just one technology. So if someone says, yeah, what is the future, and says AI, then it's a very simplistic view of future. And as you said, Rob, there are challenges which are technological and challenges which are cultural. The cultural are far more difficult to crack. The technological problems are fairly straightforward to solve. Might be difficult problems, but typically, yeah, the technology is the easier part. But for example, where these things can mean is what BIM brought is, yeah, we are more concerned about data and collaboration, which I think it still needs to happen more, is more transparency in a project. So for example, in the case of Grenfell Tower, which is, yeah, I still can't comprehend how that could happen. Someone in the process knew about the wrong specification, right? And it seems to me, I just don't understand how it got hidden or somehow, you know, was unnoticed. And this is what I think the new generation of BIM could bring. If we store data, it doesn't matter how we store it, how it's structured, but if the whole project data is more transparent and accessible to the whole team, and then also retrospectively it's easily searchable, so you can find what went wrong and you can learn your lessons, then I think this could be one step ahead. You know, we need to understand that the data itself, that's not everything. We need to get information from the data, knowledge, and ultimately we need to learn something from the whole thing. So And I believe this is something which can improve reasonably soon.
Okay, Martin, is there something you would like to add to that as well?
Yeah, just taking a few notes while listening, and agree with just about everything that's been said, and maybe to pick up particularly on what Pavel's just said about future tech. I think I've got a slide I use sometimes, and I list inverted commas emerging technologies, and it's blockchain, quantum computing, 5G, social networking, IoT, wearables, big data, machine learning, AI, all of that big mix of new, future or emerging, evolving technologies will combine and will work together in all industries, in all parts of our lives. And I think BIM, for all that the phrase I think isn't ideal, if we talk about digital construction, then digital construction will have to and will use all of these technologies. I guess our quick view from our own space is that VR and AR give us a window and will become our access points to access that information. And as you rightly again said, Pavel, that it's not just information, we need actionable insight. We need learning that we can actually take action from. And then I think if we consider those things that Rob raised rightly, Grenfell and Carillion, I mean, Grenfell, if we take the broader picture around quality and safety, I think well applied digital construction and a lot of the technologies that we would all promote will have the opportunity to massively improve safety and quality through training, through better monitoring and control and assessment. There's so much that can be done. Even today, we don't need to look too far into the future. So I think broadly, those quality and safety issues can be addressed with and massively improved with technology. Carillion, whether all the constituent parts of that around the contractual pieces, again, I think better information, better data and better used data can resolve an awful lot of what's there. But I agree with the underlying point again that because tech can solve the problem, doesn't mean that it will, and then you get into cultural and regulatory issues. So I guess I see us as providing the opportunity and others providing the opportunity to solve the problem. A big challenge for the industry is then culturally adopting those solutions and applying them. And I guess I do see that as above my pay grade.
Martin, I've just had a question come in, and I want to fire this to you and to Rob, because Rob mentioned about security a little bit earlier on, and we talked about cloud, and there's a question coming from Paul Brown, and it says, can you give me your thoughts on data on cloud platforms? We were talking with defence contractors today, and they were a bit wary with regards to security. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll kick off on that. Yeah, it's definitely an issue. We've got clients that are asking us the question about where is your data stored? Is it in the UK? Is it not? So we do get that, and it is an issue. And I think you've got to look at some of the businesses that have been hacked and what it can do to their business. So it's a justifiable concern. Probably never know if the Russians helped Donald Trump get elected. So it is clearly an issue. But it depends what kind of thinker you are. You need a balance. For me, I'll just kind of do it and kind of worry about it later and get the benefits out of it. But to counter that, you need other people that probably are a bit more concerned about it. So yeah, I think those problems will be solved, but I think we've got to be very cautious of it. I mean, I'm a massive fan of the cloud, the flexibility it gives us, and moving information around and sharing information. It's brilliant. It is what we all need to be doing. But yeah, I think security is something. It's just been a constant issue, and whether or not we ever get on top of it, I don't know. But yeah, so it's something we've got to consider.
Martin, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've kind of got a broad thought that doesn't particularly apply to our industry or even sort of work life, but just that often when we think, oh no, dangerously open or dangerously hackable digital technology, and then we look at how else we protect our data, whether it's actual physical stuff in books and paper and other things. I mean, I think everyone carries an awful lot of data around on laptops and pin drives that frankly often get left in meeting rooms and on trains and things. So, and you look at all the Ministry of Defence lapses or the big data lapses in other places. So I think the cloud doesn't actually bring any greater challenge, I don't think. I guess holding all of your data in one digital place means it is ultimately open to attack or accidental release. But we do that anyway, and there's hardly an organisation of any scale left who doesn't hold most of the digital data somewhere on their servers. I don't think cloud or otherwise makes a whole lot of difference. I think the same safeguards are required. Yes, we must, of course, be super safe and careful with our data, but I just don't think cloud adds too much of an additional layer, personally.
And Pavel, is there anything you'd like to contribute? Obviously, you before, a lot of what you do is cloud-based. It is,
yeah. And yeah, we are mostly software developers. I'm an architect myself, so I work on the kind of the consultancy part of the business, but we are basically a technology company. So yeah, this is one of the topics we discuss quite often. And the most common answer is, if you are really worried about your data, then just don't put them in a cloud and keep them stored in a bunker. It depends, depends how worried you are about your data. On the other hand, we have banks, financial sector running services in a cloud, and yes, sometimes there are hacks, but I guess it is as with flying, right? Planes are far safer than driving a car, for example. And yes, there is an occasional crash, which is very unfortunate. Yet, flying is considered to be fairly secure. And one last note on encryption. Encryption is not really well understood in general, right? You have people talking a lot about how cloud is dangerous and how we need to be careful about the data, and then send you business sensitive information through unencrypted email. A lot of people think that email is safe or communication channel, which is not really the case. So sometimes it can get a little bit funny, people being serious about security and then using emails and unencrypted USB sticks to pass data here and there.
Okay, thank you very much. Just moving away from the cloud very slightly for a second. Obviously, this talks about data as much as the next generation. Rob, what's your thought on how we can be more creative with our data use? I mean, you've obviously written lots of articles about we've got all this data and what do we do with it? And we're just starting to learn about what we can actually use it for now. What's your thoughts on that?
I think one of the that's the thing. It's a $1 million question. The stack of data, what we're going to do with it. I think creative people will start to think about the challenges and then how they can fix those challenges. And I'm a big fan of the use of APIs. We were working with a client who's effectively trying to implement an Oracle system to try and make it the perfect thing. I think that's a kind of flawed type approach, or it's only for huge organizations. The beauty of having central data is, and using APIs, you can pull and push information quite easily and you can change it. So what's great about data is you've got so many people out there thinking about the challenges and how they can fix them, and ideas. I think I guess in construction we've probably never seen such a sort of an entrepreneurial approach. It'd be interesting. It's what you said, Mark. You said that we've adopted VR probably faster than a lot of other sectors. I think we're probably quite entrepreneurial now. I think we've made a massive leap as an industry. And if you'd said, a few years ago, we're going to have these problems that we've got in the industry and how we're going to fix them, I think it probably would have been a challenge. But I think actually now, I think there's a whole bunch of very clever people in the industry that will use that information that's being built all the time and do some really clever things with it. So the data is at the heart of it. Rather than going from computers, from paper to computers, it's data is there to be used very broadly.
And Martin, Rob really quite clearly mentioned entrepreneurship, and that's very much what you do and what you're doing with your businesses. So what's the scope for entrepreneurs and smaller people, smaller organizations, because we always look to the likes of Google and Microsoft as the leaders in the field. What's the space that you fit into in that?
Yeah, I think there's so much space. I think if you consider what the construction or what innovation has looked like in the construction industry for, 100 years, I think most building sites around the world, in the UK in particular, look like they did 100 years ago. I kind of don't think they've changed. And I think if you look at other industries, let's take manufacturing, aerospace are often used. look how they have evolved since, say, the 50s or 60s. They've become, if you walk into, I don't know, a Boeing manufacturing facility, it kind of looks like something from a sci-fi movie. If you go into automotive manufacturing facilities, many of them look like, you know, the factory of the future. And it's only now, I would say, in the last 5 years, you really begin to see some of the big players look at that. But I know one company who we work to some extent with in the Highlands of Scotland. They're effectively a small start-up business manufacturing off-site modular buildings, but they are cutting a path through the industry at the moment, which I think has made everyone sit up and take notice. They're called Carbon Dynamics. And I think there's loads of space for the small upstart business to come in and show everyone else how it could be done. I think that's true across the whole of the construction industry because it's generally so inefficient. But again, I go back to my own space in particular, of AR, augmented reality. We're just about to see augmented reality appear in our lives. I believe it's at least as big an impact and shift in our lives as the internet was and then mobile phones have been. And I think anyone who can find a way to apply that into our industry, into the world of work in our space, will have a huge opportunity to entrepreneurially create a space for themselves and develop a new solution. And it kind of feels like the early days of the web, where anyone with a good idea and a bit of effort and willingness to drive it through could produce something amazing that could be adopted by industry. So I think anyone who's interested in that, I think it's just an amazing time where the data conversation is quite mature now. We understand the potential of it. It's now how to really realise it on site and do great things with it. And I think that time is now. I think the opportunity is right now.
Rob, is there something that you wish to add to that?
From an entrepreneurial point of view, no, I think we've got a lot of young entrepreneurs, and my favourite story at the moment is that the guys, good friends of ours at Kai Cloud, Ed and Nick, set up 5 years ago, North Shields Fish Key, and they've just sold out to a big American company. That's within 5 years. Fantastic. You know, had VC funding, did a fantastic job, and I think that's a great story. And that, you know, can't even imagine that now. I set a few years ago. So yeah, I think if we can just exploit technologies, get the funding. That's the other thing that's quite interesting. That there's quite a few people that have been floating around, venture capitalists who are looking at funds in the construction industry, which seems kind of unbelievable. And also VCs buying other businesses that are in this field. They don't do it unless they think there's value and profit in it, to be, you know, blunt. So I think there is a space now for entrepreneurialism. Again, if you just go back probably 10, 15 years, and even imagine the word entrepreneur being used in the construction sector, probably not. So yeah, I think it's quite, as you say, Martin, it's a really exciting place to be at the moment.
And Pavel, we've only got a few minutes left. I'm conscious of time, and I want to try and keep the time, because I know people are busy in the afternoon, and we really appreciate everyone attending and listening in. Is there something that you wish to add to what Martin and Rob commented?
Yeah, well, just really briefly, 3Repo is, you know, one of the examples. We are also backed by the venture capitalist fund, and yeah, it's a spin-off from UCL doctoral researcher, you know, our founder Joseph Doboš. And yeah, I agree. It's exciting times, and also just one sentence to the place on the market is we have the big, you know, the Googles and Facebooks and what have you. But construction is really quite it's a fragmented sector or industry, and it's very country specific, and it's very local, because yeah, buildings don't fly, right? You need to build it on one place, and I think there is a gap, or this is not exactly the market, you know, Google's or the Silicon Valley giants who would necessarily be interested, at least at this stage. So yes, I agree. It's a good place for smaller companies as well.
Thank you for adding.
And Marie, can I just add one thing on the entrepreneurial and innovation thing and the funding and finance? I think for once and for a while now in the UK, Innovate UK, which is the UK government's kind of innovation pool of money, has been quite good at focusing on our industry and the potential to apply innovation and technology into our space. And I think anyone that's interested should have a look at the various funding calls and competitions that come out from Innovate UK. Some of them are quite arduous to apply for, the bigger ones, but some smaller ones require maybe only a 3-minute video on one side of A4 to pitch your idea in there. We won one of those a few years ago with Crossrail, and it was £35,000, which was super useful at that point to enable us to do a little bit of cool R&D and deliver something smart for Crossrail. So those things are out there, and I think they're great little seed funds that you can access.
Thanks, Martin. We've only got a few minutes left, so Rob, I'm just going to hand it back over to you. Is there anything that you feel that's essential that we would share with the audience today that we've not covered in terms of next big things and innovation and creativity, David?
No, I think it's a great conversation to have, because it's exciting, which is always what BIM Show is always about. And it's kind of like-minded people, and sort of Pavel and Martin, sort of both passionate about what they do. Passionate about change. We've just had to find those people that are that way inclined, put them together once a year in the UK. I mean, that same bunch of people seem to be very keen to go out to Las Vegas once a year, which is slightly different. That's one of the reasons why we set up BIM Show Live, because you didn't have to go to Vegas. Most of the people, it hasn't stopped them going to Vegas, but yeah, I think it's just great collecting those people together. And I just think that you can even talk about entrepreneurism, about data and VR. I just think it's great. So it's not meant to be a pitch, but as ever, I'm looking forward to a couple of days in the Northeast, sort of continuing this discussion, and what's great seeing friends that that have been on this journey over the last sort of 7-8 years.
And Pavel, are there any closing remarks that you'd like to add?
Not really. I think we covered it. Well, not all, but a lot of it, and. Yeah, I would recommend the listeners to come to BIM Show Live and see more of the innovation.
And Martin?
Yeah, definitely. I think as a community, that's the one thing I guess I've found in our time in this space in the last 5 or 6 years, is there's a strong community, always has been. I think the danger or the potential and maybe the Achilles heel of the community is the danger of talking to ourselves too much and agreeing with each other. And I think a challenge for the community, and I think BIM Show Live is a great forum for that, is to discuss how to and actually bring along those either skeptics or decision makers that aren't typically part of that group, and bring them on board. So it's preaching to the non-converted, and it's bringing those key people along. So I guess that's the value of a BIM Show Live event, and I think the community strength can really get that message out there.
That ties in very nicely with one of the questions we've had come in from the audience. Martin, what do you think is new at BIM Show Live each year? Because people obviously sometimes think with shows they're just a bit repetitive, and we're a bit fearful that we could be saying the same thing and seeing the same people. So what do you think that we're going to get at the show this year that is as far from the norm, basically?
I think the pace of change of technology means there's always something new tech-wise, but I think Rob's thing at the beginning about stories, for me, at all of these conferences, but particularly BIM Show Live, those people that stand up and tell their real stories about real projects, and again, you hit the nail on the head earlier, Rob, with the ones that didn't go well or learning from mistakes. That's invaluable for the audience, I feel, and I think those stories are always new, and we're getting more and more of those stories on more significant projects now. And for me, that stuff that's not repeating. I guess I know where the question comes from, is there are all manner of kind of standard presentations, I guess, that do the rounds. But I do feel that people that are going to, presenters like ourselves and whoever else are going to come to BIM Show Live, we want to bring something new. We won't trot out the same old stuff. We do want to be seen to be bringing something new and able to communicate something new. So I'd expect to see most of it being fresh and new, and particularly those stories.
And Pavel, what new things are you going to be bringing to the show?
Well, our take on BIM level 3, if you like, which is fairly undefined. So yeah, as I said, our kind of database focused approach, I think it's fairly new, hasn't been used that much, so this is something we would like to talk more. And I think it was still useful to go to BIM Show Live and these conferences in general, I go to many of them, and there's always at least two or three really interesting stories which caught my attention. And of course, yeah, a lot of things repeat because, well, yeah, you have to be realistic. You can't expect mind-blowing stuff every year and something completely different. It's not how world works, I'm afraid. But yeah, there are still a couple of interesting stories and interesting people I'm looking forward to meet and talk to.
That's great. Thank you, Pavel. I think we could have another whole webinar on BIM Level 3, so I won't put that out to Rob and Martin right now because we could be here for another quarter of an hour. Right, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you to Rob. Thank you to Martin. Thank you to Pavel. We do have another webinar next week. The next subject we have is stories and strategy. That's going to be on Wednesday, the 21st of February at 3:30. So please do log on for that. What I'll do for everyone who's listening out there, I'll send you the link to the next one. But for this afternoon, I think that went exceptionally well. I think we got a really good insight into what we can expect from the show. But for those of you perhaps that are listening who can't make it to BIM Show Live, it's just quite nice to get to know some of the speakers and what their thoughts are about what is that next generation of BIM and what we can expect for the future, maybe in the next 12 months. And then once again, we'll be sitting here about 2 weeks before the show in 2019, and hopefully what we're talking about is something completely wild and wacky, and we've all achieved everything that we've discussed today. So thank you very much. We are recording this. We'll put it up live on the BIM Show Live YouTube channel, and hopefully we'll see you all at the show. Thank you. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Cheers. Thanks. Bye.